Hey VC, it's Dr. Robert. One of the things that I want to talk about in these videos is my process for storing, restoring, cataloging, cleaning, enhancing records that I buy. And I'm a big used record purchaser. I buy many more old used records, or maybe not so old, but used records, opened records, played records, as opposed to modern new releases. Now, I do buy some new releases, and I like the concept. I like the notion that we're getting better at a lot of the aspects of making records. So records that are being repressed, remastered, and put out in new format that's, better than the original format, I'm all for it. And I get the idea of owning those. I also get the idea of buying represses of records that are just impossibly rare and expensive to find. So that's a great thing. And I like the notion of new releases, not just new releases of studio music, but new releases of live shows and outtakes, demos from artists that recorded and performed maybe years ago, right? New music by artists we already know and love that we haven't been able to put our hands on. So I like all of that. But that ends up being a great minority of what I actually purchase and add to my collection. I'm not being critical. I think there are people for whom that's maybe their main focus, and would love to hear from you. Love to hear from you and contrast and compare, what's similar about it, what's maybe not the same as buying old original records from back in the day. Yeah, okay. So, but when you buy records from back in the day, you get into issues of condition, all right? And so there's a whole series of steps I take with every record that I purchase, most of which are these used records. And it starts with entering the record into my collection on Discogs. Discogs for me has been absolutely a godsend, and I guess I've been using it probably 8 years, 6, 8 years at least. I would say more, that's more than 6. It's gotta be 8 years, maybe more. So, and I can see in my collection when I go in, logged in, I think they've got some 215, I think that's maybe 214, somewhere in there. That's when I started logging in my collection. And so I always do that. I've talked in a video with Mazzy about how much it irritates me when record stores put the price tag right on the record cover and sometimes on the record label. For the love of God, man, and women, please just don't do that. I mean, this is an artifact, and I've said you will never find a comic book or a baseball card that has a price sticker on the actual thing, right? But it's prevalent. And so, yes, I take the stickers off. I'll show that in another video. I use lighter fluid and a scraper and a rag, and I've got a whole system. And then I clean the record on an ultrasonic cleaner. My cleaner is a glass audio desk system. It's a German-made cleaner. It's quite pricey, but I've had really good success with it. It does a great job. I've had this now also, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years. I'm on my 4th one. I was able to clean 4,000 with one, 5,000 with a second. And by the way, you get the replacements for a steal compared to the price of the original one. So once you're in, you can get not an upgrade, but a new replacement when it goes down. And so I love cleaning these records, and I clean every record I buy pretty much. Once in a while, if I buy a new one, it comes out and it looks immaculate, I don't do it. And we've talked, there's been talk about whether you need to clean new records. If I play it and it sounds crackly, I'm gonna clean it. And if I see anything visual on it, I'm gonna clean it. But besides that, maybe not. But other than that, every other used record gets cleaned. And then I inspect the edges, the seams, And if there's a tear of more than about 1 inch at the outer edge of the seam, I repair it, and that's what I'm going to show in this video. So if there's a separation, I repair that, and that's a different process. But I think I'm going to show those two aspects of my maintenance today. And then finally, I make sure that the record has a nice quality inner and outer seam, or sorry, sleeve, an inner and outer sleeve. Sorry, my eye itches. I don't know, man. I may have to do that more. Sorry. Yeah. But if there's a generic white paper sleeve, I toss it. If there's a commercial sleeve, or certainly if there's a that matches the record label, from Columbia or Warner Brothers or whatever the label was. If there's an authentic original inner sleeve, I usually preserve that. Certainly if there's a sleeve that is custom made for the original album, I save that. But I still put the record into a cellophane sleeve, and increasingly I'm putting the record outside the cover rather than replacing it in the cover in the new sleeve. And the same for the outer sleeve. Most used records we buy now come with a new outer sleeve, but sometimes those are really crappy, and I'll replace it for a nicer one. And then I put a sticker on the outer sleeve that identifies the record, identifies the year of pressing, identifies the label and the order of the pressing. Is it original? Is it a repress? Yada, yada, yada. And then the condition of the sleeve and the record. And then I make a notation of all of the things that I do. I put a little note to myself that I have recorded it, I have cleaned it. These are just initials, an R and a C, that I've created or placed it into a new inner sleeve, and that I've repaired the seams or inspected the seams to make sure they don't need repair. Those are the notes I'm making right now. I've begun to take records out of shrink wrap if they come in shrink wrap. And I love buying records that are in shrink wrap, because old records that are in shrink wrap, the covers are always, nearly always, typically, almost always, in much better condition than those that have not. And I didn't do that back in the day. I wish I had. But nowadays, I think the outer sleeve has become the shrink wrap has become a bit of a detriment. It can warp or distort the sleeve. It can stick to the sleeve and damage it that way. And it just is not necessary when you place the cover into a plastic outer sleeve of its own, which I think is a much nicer and safer storage place. And by the way, Amanda Mazzy's good friend, and now my good friend and the archivist, has told me that she feels that taking them out of the outer sleeves or out of the shrink wrap is a good idea. So I do that. So what I'm going to show today, that's my process. All right. I know it's OCD. I know. I admit it. Look, I'm a surgeon. It's OCD, but that's helped me in other ways in my life. And I kind of think it helps me as a collector. I enjoy it. That's the biggest thing. I really like doing all this stuff. So what I'm showing today is going to be the repair of a record seam. All right. And here's an example. That is well separated. This is an old Jimmy Rogers record. Somebody else posted this record, I think. I think this was one. No, it was a different Jimmy Rogers, but some Jimmy Rogers discussion on Instagram here recently. But I've got pretty much all of the LP releases of Jimmy Rogers stuff. That was those were all put out obviously as re-releases, represses. His original stuff was pressed in the 30s, maybe in the 20s. I don't know. I was reading his Wikipedia page. He died in his 30s of tuberculosis back in the day when we didn't have any drugs to treat tuberculosis. I've had a number of patients with tuberculosis over the years. It's still a devastating disease if you get it. And by the way, we have almost zero of it here in the United States and in the developed world. But you go to Africa, you go to the Philippines, you go to some other countries around the world, and it is endemic. And there are still a number of patients, a number of people who contract TB, and it can be devastating. I've had a number of those patients over the years that I've taken care of, and they've needed relatively radical spine surgery, some of them. So that's a different issue. Here's what I use to repair the seams of a record. So this is really hard to tell. You know, I buy this online, and they put this big sticker over the cover of the front of the box. So it's a little hard to see what this is. But what this is called is paper hinging tape. And it says that right there, paper hinging tape. And this is what comes inside it. This is what the paper hinging tape is. And it's about 3/4 of an inch. I'll measure it. It's about 3/4 of an inch wide. And the purpose of this is actually it's actually about an inch, almost exactly an inch wide. Yeah, it is exactly an inch. So the purpose of paper hinging tape is to mount posters onto matting, and so it's used in framing stores. I think it is used in some cases for book repair. It can be used for that. But it is ideal for, in my opinion, for record cover repair, and I'll show you how I do that. The other tool I use is a plastic ruler. Simple, normal, easy to find. You gotta have a pair of scissors, and you gotta have some water. And that's all you need. So here's what I'm gonna do. I've got this. You measure out the repair you need. In this case, it stretches, let's see, about, that far, okay? So I'm gonna cut a piece about that long. Cut a piece of the hinging tape to the size of the tear of the record. All right, there it is. Then fold this sucker in half, easy peasy. See there, see how you do that? You see the thumb and forefinger just working there together. Wow, like a team. Woo, hey, congratulations guys. So there's my folded hinging tape. Now I use the ruler, and I'm gonna have to step away. I'm just gonna let this run, but I put this on one edge of the ruler, hold it like so, and I'm just gonna go wet this down in my sink. I'll be right back. Hey, did you miss me? Well, I'm back. So there you go. This is now wet. And smooth that out, make sure you've got it all the way. And you gotta have your shirt tail untucked for this, all right? And then you gotta dry off the bottom of the ruler. What happens with these is you will get sticking inside the cover. It will plaster the cover together and you have to separate it. But after you've got this ready, I'm gonna step back, you open the cover, push this in. I used to leave it out like this all the time. Now, if I can, I get the edge fully lined up because it's one less step. But it's really no big deal if you don't. So the most important thing is to get it level, get it right up against that edge, and the ruler helps you do that. If you leave that piece sticking out, it ain't gonna be a problem. We're gonna cut it off with the scissors once it's dry. And actually, given the timing, I'm just gonna show you how to do that right now. So I've got this, you see I 3 or 4 times, squeeze this together so it's nicely opposed. And again, congratulations to the team. So now I'm just gonna take the scissors, got this, and all you're gonna do is line that up, easy peasy, snip that off, gone. So that's basically it. There's one more part that you need to do. And I guess I need to step away once more, but the next step is you get a big heavy book or some other thing that's big and heavy. You lay the record down on the table, and I'm just gonna take this out of let's show you this. Here's the table. All right, there's the table, and follow me. I'm gonna go get a book. Okay. Oh, here's a book. What's this one called? Well, it's called Global Spinal Alignment because everybody needs that at home. So now, bring the book up and you set it down on the record cover. See? So that's pretty much it. And then I leave it at least 24 hours. I could take it out earlier. I think it's dry within about an hour, but I usually do a whole bunch of these at one time, and then come back and clean up the whole stack and put them back in the shelves. So that's seam repair. And I'll show it, I tell you what, in the next video I make, I'll pull up this stack that I'm gonna repair today, and I'll pull out one or two and just tear them apart and show you what it looks like. And I think you'll be impressed. I've done this now, well, I would say dozens, but it's got to be hundreds of covers that I've repaired like this. And I'm still going through, because I didn't used to do it, I'm still going through my whole collection. And when I find one that isn't repaired, pulling it out and putting it together. That's Jimmy Rogers. I've had that record, I don't know, maybe 8-10 years. I just never repaired it back in the day. And then somewhere along the lines, I learned this process, and now I'm sharing it with you. And that's, you know, that's what we call the great circle of life there, you know? So I hope some of you like this. I hope some of you adopt it. I've greatly enjoyed it. And I'll tell you one story. So not so long ago, I bought a record at a record show, and I got it home, and I saw that it had a big seam tear, you know, and so I got, you know, the dealers price these down usually, because it's a situational condition. It's a part of the condition that's not so good. At any rate, I got it home and repaired the seam, and hadn't played the record before I repaired the seam, and then put it on my turntable, and the thing had a huge warp. And I'm like, I don't want this. So I called the dealer and said, look, this is what happened. And he said, yeah, no problem, bring it back. And I said, but I got to tell you, you know, look, I actually repaired the seam for you. He goes, oh, I wish you hadn't done that. I said, well, I think you'll like it. I bring it in. He was thinking like I taped it on the outside. No, repaired it on the inside. It's invisible on the outside. And he looks at it and he goes, oh, you repaired it on the inside. Oh, that's really cool. So he liked that. He got his record back, and I got a refund, and he got his record back with a repaired cover. So it was a nice interaction. So I think if you do this, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to improve the records and do it because you like it. But it may also win you some kudos, and even, who knows, maybe a few bucks. So, all right, until next time, the doctor's out.